Welcome to Degree in Me, where we highlight a specific major each week. I'm your host, Christabel, and today's major is Victim Studies with Dr. Clevenger and current student of Victim Studies Victim Services Management Program, Becca Cary. Thank you for joining us today, ladies.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Yep.
Of course, of course. So, Dr. Clevenger, we're going to start with you. Okay. How long have you been here with Sam Houston State?
I started June 1st, 2020, so not very long.
Oh, wow.
I'm new. I came to start the Victim Studies department. We're actually a new department. We became official September 1st.
Oh, okay. So how's the process been so far?
It's been pretty good. It's been a lot of work, but very rewarding.
Okay. Is there a lot of students already enrolled in it?
Yes, so it was currently a major. So the Victim Studies undergraduate and the graduate program was existing. It was just housed under criminal justice. But now we're our own separate department within the College of Criminal Justice.
Okay, gotcha. More independent, more...
Yeah, it's been really fun. I've liked creating it.
Okay, cool. So, Becca, how long have you been a student here at Sam Houston State?
Well, I started out with my bachelor's, and I graduated in 2018. And then this is my actual first semester with the Victim Programs Master.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Fairly new in the master's
program. Everyone's new here. Yeah. Okay. Dr. Clevenger, where did you go to college, and what did you major in exactly?
So I am from Pennsylvania, so I went to school in Pennsylvania called Indiana University of Pennsylvania. And I was a criminology major.
Okay. What made you decide to go there?
It was close to home. However, I was initially going to do fashion design at FIT in New York City.
Really?
But my last semester of high school, I had a class called criminology and law. And after taking that class, fashion design didn't seem, I guess, as important to me. And so I totally switched gears and decided to, try criminology, and that was the college that was closest to home. And I applied late, so I didn't know if anyone would accept me, but they did. So here I am.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what brought you to here, Sam?
To start the Victim Studies department.
Okay.
Because it's the first and only Department of Victim Studies in the nation.
Really?
Yeah, which is really cool. It's great to be a part of that.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I really care about victimology and victims, and so the chance to start the first department was really intriguing, and that's why I came to SAM.
That is so cool. I love it. So Becca?
Yep.
You have a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. What made you choose to pursue your Master's in Victim Service Management?
Well, that's a very loaded question, but to be honest and with full disclosure, I am a victim of human trafficking. And 5.5 years ago, I decided to open a nonprofit in anti-trafficking in Montgomery County. And I think when you're first learning about nonprofit and stuff like that well, for me anyways, it was really new and I didn't know a lot of stuff. I learned it as I was going along. And then when I heard about this program, I was like, how great that there was a program out there to help people like me to better what we do and help serve others. And so I looked into it and I enrolled and I love it. So it's just one of those things that I just think is going to help better what we do as an organization.
Gotcha. Yeah. Do you suggest people getting experience first to really know the education that they're getting into, or what do you advise?
Not necessarily, but I do think that they need to at least understand what they're going to get into, because it is a hard job. It is one of those where you're putting yourself out there. It's not a glorified job. It's not one of those where you're going to make a lot of money, but it is so worth it and well rewarding. But I think people do need to at least understand a little bit about what they're getting into.
That's awesome. Awesome. Okay, Dr. Clevenger, do you have any outside experience in this field?
Yes. So I worked with children with behavioral problems before becoming a professor, and that was really helpful to me because while a lot of those children had committed offenses, they had also been victimized. So I really got to see this connection between people who commit crime and their victimization. And then I also worked at PETA doing animal cruelty investigations, which I learned very quickly was not for me. But I did, seeing that really also helped me thinking about victimization and the connection that animals sometimes can play with people being victimized. Because animals being victimized, people can be victimized at the same time.
Gotcha. So what do you advise people do that are like pursuing this program? Do you advise them to get outside experience?
I think they can. I do think it helps, knowing what you get into. But I think sometimes, even if you don't have that outside experience, just going to the class and hearing what is being said, and that might give you some, I guess, indicators for you if you can handle it. I always tell my students, if you can't handle me telling you about this in a classroom, then you're not going to be able to handle it in the real world. So sometimes the classroom can be a good way for students to kind of dip their toes in to see if they would be interested in working with victims.
Gotcha. Do you have any like advice for how people can, I don't know, I guess emotionally like detach themselves or like try to get the work done, or what do you suggest?
That's always such a hard question for people. So I think if you're working in this field, right, it's so hard, you need to have some sort of escape or outlet. So even if you're a student and you're hearing about these really hard topics, you need to have a way to disconnect. And I always say, for me, I read comic books and I love science fiction. So I will do that to kind of break away. But even, we just had a really hard, heavy lecture yesterday in my victimology class. And I'll encourage my students, take a break from hearing about these really sad things and do something to kind of lighten your mind. And if you work in that field and even studying it, I think it's really important.
Okay, I gotcha. Becca, do you have any advice on that or anything that you do?
Well, I definitely agree. You need to have self-care. I do a lot of just like traveling or outdoors. I make sure I'm outdoors all the time. If it gets hard, I make sure I sit with a friend and just talk it out. But you do need to have an outlet. You need to have a safe place for yourself to be able to just relax and unleash and let it go. And
Yeah.
honestly, if you can't deal with that or something, you're not going to be very effective with somebody else. So it's very important.
Gotcha. Okay, Miss Becca, what do you plan on doing with your master's?
Well, again, Hands of Justice is my main priority, but I think that this program is just going to enhance it and better help our programs. The stuff like grant writing and that's available is so important for nonprofits, and I'm clueless, honestly, in that area, so I'm so looking forward to that class. But I plan on enhancing Hands of Justice and making it better.
Okay. How was the process of starting Hands of Justice?
Tedious. It's a long process. I think nonprofit is so different than other things. So there's a lot of things that you have to do. But in the beginning, we started out as a teen organization, and what we do now is so completely different than what it was in the beginning. So I think the learning process of really finding our niche and what we are good at and what we're going to be good at in the future changes over time. And so it's a learning process for everybody.
Yeah. Do y'all take volunteers like from SAM or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Interns, volunteers, we are always looking for volunteers. We have different programs within it. So we do awareness, we do outreach, we do survivor-led scholarships for GEDs and education, and then we do survivor-led support groups. So we have a bunch of support groups in and around the Houston area for survivors.
Gotcha.
And,
So for people that are looking into the program, do you suggest they go to your website?
Yeah, handsofjustice.org.
Okay,
gotcha. And they
gotcha.
can sign up for our newsletter over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Alrighty, Miss Dr. Clevenger, what jobs can you attain with the victim studies major?
My goodness, so many. So a lot of our students like to go into victim advocacy, meaning they could work as a medical or a legal advocate or a victim advocate, sometimes for special organizations like a domestic violence shelter or rape crisis center. But they can also go work for a nonprofit, start a nonprofit, right, head up a nonprofit. We've also had students go and work in police stations as victim advocates or working with prosecutors doing victim advocacy, but also we have some former students who work in prisons doing victim services within the prisons. And we have some students who went to national organizations, the National Center for Victims of Crime, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. So, I mean, it's very wide open. I also have a student who just got a job working in the Special Victims Unit of a police department as an officer, but the victim studies degree helped to get into that department because he had a lot of knowledge about victimization.
Gotcha. So is it is it easier for people that go to SAM and get the, because I know we're very high esteemed with our criminology program. Do you see any like correlation with like us and the jobs that they can attain, like their resumes and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think SAM has a great reputation for criminal justice. And because our department is part of the College of Criminal Justice, I think that helps because they're like, oh, well, you're from SAM, right? You're from the College of Criminal Justice. And then, now that we're our own department, people are like, oh, I didn't even know there was a victim studies department. That's great. And we have the concentration on victims. So if people want to work with victims, every class that you take in the major or in the master's is all about victims. And so some employers really like that concentration.
Gotcha. Nice to know. Okay. Also, another question for you.
Sure.
Is there any misconceptions about this major?
Yeah, I would say people think it's mostly women's work or women, which we do have a lot of women, which I'm proud of and I love, right? But we also have male victim studies majors, and we do have men who are interested in working with victims. I mentioned the student who is a police officer. We have males who do this work, but I think sometimes people think it's more female related, and also that this is just like a social work sort of major, which it does have a lot of components related to social work, but you can work in the criminal justice field having had this degree.
Okay. So Ms. Becca, what do you find challenging about the master's program?
Challenging? Wow, I actually don't yet. I think it's because I'm so new, but there's so much that I love about it already that I'm sure there's going to be challenges down the road as some of the classes look like they're going to be, way over my head, but that's what I'm here for, is to learn. So that'll be challenging in the future, but right now I love it. And there's nothing that, I love the components that it's online and that it's available when you are available to work, so I can do that around my schedule, and it's just been great so far.
Gotcha. So what about the bachelor's program? Did you find any problems with that?
No.
Or challenges?
Well, yeah, again, certain classes were hard, but I think maybe that was a little different because I came to campus and I had to really adjust it to where I could be here and available, and I had to put some of my job duties on hold doing that. That was my biggest challenge during the time, but very different now.
Gotcha. Yeah. How do you juggle Hands of Justice and school?
Because this is an online program and it's literally like 2 classes per, it's really so much different. It is so not so time consuming for me. So I can do it when I have time free, and it's been great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the master's program, is it only online?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
Because most of our students are working, just like Becca is, so it really is helpful.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad
that
they
very much appealed to me when I saw it. I'm like, oh my gosh, because I love
like,
online
yes.
classes. So.
Gotcha. So Dr. Clevenger, what do you think are some of the challenging aspects of this major?
As we kind of already talked about, it's a very sad major. I kind of joke with my class, but it's actually true. Like, every class is the saddest class ever. Aww. Just when you think last class was going to be sad, wait for this one. So it can be really difficult to be hearing about people being hurt all the time, or how people are impacted from being victimized. And so we talk about that all the time. And so, there's never really a happy day in the classes. And so, I think about that a lot. It's very normal for me, having taught for a long time, but for the students, I think sometimes it can get really heavy because, we're just talking about sad stuff all the time. So I think that can be a real challenge for people.
Is there a minor in victim studies?
Yes, we just got it approved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is great. So starting in the fall. we will offer a minor. So if undergraduate folks with a different major would like to minor in victim studies, we would love that.
Oh, okay. Wow, nice to know. Everything's fresh and new, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Miss Becca, what do you find most interesting in this major?
I'm the kind of person that loves this topic. I love learning, and I love, well, it helps not only to understand myself, but to understand the people and the individuals that I'm working with every day. So I love the concept that that's what we're learning about, and really diving into those subjects. It's not surface stuff, like she said. It is very deep and very challenging, but it's rewarding at the same time to be able to learn about how it's going.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Dr. Clevenger, what's your favorite thing of the major?
I think for me, it's seeing students develop empathy for victims. That's what I really care about. I want people, even if they're not necessarily going to be victim advocates or working specifically out with victims, I want people to leave my classes having that empathy. And so I love seeing that transformation from the beginning, the first class to the end of the semester, where people really start to care about victims and get what awful experiences they have and go through.
Gotcha. Okay, so Dr. Clevenger, what minors would you suggest for this major?
Criminal justice, criminology, goes really well together. I would also say psychology is a really good one, and
Good move.
it's a really good one. And social work, sociology are some really good ones. We also have within the College of Criminal Justice security studies. I think those two things can also go together. I think those would be my top ones that I would suggest.
Okay. I feel like it all kind of flows together, so there's not really a bad match.
I would agree.
But okay, Miss Becca, what advice would you give to someone considering the master's program?
Again, I think we've touched on it a little bit, but I would say just to be aware of yourself and how deep these classes can get, and how self-care is just so important, and that's every one of these teachers have been so great about, like, if you need to reach out to them and just take a break, then just do that.
Oh, wow.
But just going in, they really are. But just going with that mindset that's probably going to happen at some point during these classes, and just to be aware of it. Yeah.
Gotcha. So, Dr. Clevenger, what advice do you have for students considering this major?
I would say this is a great major for people who want to help people. And for people who care about people. I always joke and say we're the Care Bears, which that reference might be lost on younger folks. But
How sad.
the Care Bears, cared about people and wanted to help people. And people who go into victim studies want to help. So they want to help in some capacity with victims, whichever way they go, whichever route they choose. But that's, I think, the biggest thing, thinking about giving advice. Do you want to help people? Do you want to make a difference to somebody when they're going through maybe the worst thing in their whole life? Then this is the major for you. And for some people, that would be too overwhelming. That would be too hard. But for others, you get to be a real life superhero. You get to help victims, which I think is the best thing in the world.
So the question, do you have the heart for it, or
the heart for it, and can you be tough enough to deal with the hard days? And it's okay if the answer is no. It really is. It's just there are going to be some really sad days, and you have to be able to take care of yourself. But would you be able to handle those things?
Yeah.
But you really do in this major get a chance to help people in a really special way.
And it brings a lot of awareness, I feel like, because say I'm a mass comm major, and so I don't have a whole lot of knowledge on that. So Becca has trainings online. She makes it very accessible to us, and I feel like I have I want to help people, but I don't know if I have the thick skin to go through that kind of thing.
It can be hard.
Yeah.
But even you or anyone doing the think about awareness or understanding it, you probably will encounter somebody who's been victimized in your personal or professional life. And so that can give you some understanding about what they're going through if it happens to a friend or a family member.
Gotcha. Does it happen a lot more often than we realize it? Because you say that we come across people,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, way more than I think people even realize. Yeah.
Really?
We always say in our business that you've probably come across somebody or know somebody who's been through something, or you're going to meet somebody in the future that is going to go through something at some point. There's just no doubt about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So it looks like that's all the questions I have for y'all today. Thank you for joining us and being so open and vulnerable. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course, of course. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us today, and a special thanks to Dr. Clevenger and Becca for showcasing this department. Tune in next time when we sit down with Assistant Professor and Athletic Training Program Director, Dr. Williams, to highlight kinesiology. And remember, education is key, so do it right with degree and me.